So what's up, everyone? It is your girl Gel Beauty 87 here, aka Grace, and we start a new series today. So I wanted to be able to use my older palette some more, and I know y'all don't usually like throwback, even though it's not Thursdays, that I used to put out on Fridays. So I figured what we could do is we could do kind of like a battle of the brands things with palettes, and then the newest palette from each brand at the end after I rank based upon the formula of the shadows, the price point of the shadows, how the color stories compare to each brand, and kind of like the owner and the backstory of the brand. Then I could do an eye look with each palette, and then we could determine overall which one was easiest to work with, which one had all the pinpoints I just mentioned, and we'll do by a point system, and then we'll determine who won that way. So that's what I'm filming today. This is the first one I'm filming out, so bear with me while I get my footing together and come up with a plan as to how I'm normally going to do it. But I plan on ranking each one of the brands based upon the price point of the product, how the shadows perform, how the color story looks to me, and how the palette performed overall. So today we're starting off with, I tried to make sure they had an even amount of palettes too. I tried with the second one. It's not going to be exact, but they're both influencer brands. With this one, I tried to do both makeup artist brands. If I remember correctly, the owner of Mented Cosmetics, Maggie, is a makeup artist. Don't quote me though, because I'm not 100% sure. I went to go check her bio before it started, and it just said artist, so it didn't say she was a makeup artist. So I'm not sure if I'm correct on that point, but we all know Made by Mitchell, or Made by Mitchell, is a makeup artist and a makeup artist's own brand. So I figured it'd be a fun way to start off with two makeup artist brands, and then the next one's going to be an influencer brand. So I feel like you should know which two influencer brands are going to be based upon it, you know, being me. But anyway, so we're going to start off with Head in the Clouds, Feet on the Ground versus the Blends palette. Now, when I first saw the Blends palette, again, of course, I found out about Blend Bunny Cosmetics from my girl Karen Harris, because I found out so many brands from Karen. Shout out to Karen. That's how y'all be getting these new brands in for me to try on, you know, brown girls, because, you know, the tan girl came through and told me what time it was. But yeah, so I'm going to show you the palette side by side, and then we're going to talk about the color stories and the formulas and how I feel about them. And then we'll go on next one and next one. So keep up with the points, because at the end we're going to tally the points and then see who won and who lost. So this is the Blends palette up against the Head in the Clouds, Feet on the Ground palette. As you can see, she started with a traditional rainbow palette, but I feel like it has some of a twist because people don't usually put a row of pastel shades in. So I like the fact she did that, because you can use the pastels to airbrush across these two darker colors right here. And plus she gave you a good amount of dark colors for you to put on the outer V to watch with all these, or you can just go straight across each row and make a nice eye look, or you can do a little quad of sorts. So I like the way she set up her palette, just because it gives a good idea. You can go across each row and make an eye look, or you can go down each row and make an eye look. Like I would make an eye look with just this row, or with just this row, or I would use like a combination of these three rows so I could airbrush and all that. So I feel like she did a great color story, and this was a great first palette for people who want to dip into color. Her formula is really nice and blendable and easy. The only thing I will say is I wasn't liking the fact of the lack of mattes, but we know me, I have plenty of shimmer palettes, and you know, you can buy singles. Like you can just put a Super Shock shadow from ColourPop on top of all these beautiful mattes she has and call it a day. So this was a good first palette in my personal opinion, and I really liked it. So shout out to Maggie, 1 point for her on the Blends palette for the formula, 1 point for the color story. And then the price point on these, I think the price point on this is lower than the next two we're going to talk about, because they have shimmers and this one doesn't. But I thought the price point was really good for the quality and the amount of shadows you got. So Maggie gets 3 points starting off just for this palette as a whole. Now we're going to turn into Head in the Clouds, because Head in the Clouds and Feet on the Ground came out at the same time, but I'm just doing it to where all the color stories are matching up and in the somewhat order that they came out with. So with this one, the color story was scattered and confusing, and I even told y'all in the video, I was like, I'm gonna have to go on camera and figure out my life, because I don't know what exactly I'm gonna do with this. Because to me, there's no cohesive color story going on. It's just like he threw a whole bunch of colors in the palette. Now, if you're a person who likes scattered color stories like Butte Bean, or Baddie Bean here on YouTube, aka Betty Jean, then you might really like this palette. I didn't plan on picking up this palette, but I bought it because it was 50% off during box day. So the color story for me doesn't get any points, because to me it's just not cohesive, and it makes me scatterbrained. Plus the background is really busy, and which doesn't help with the fact that the colors don't really have any rhyme or reason to them, in my personal opinion. But again, I'm not a makeup artist, so that might be like his thought process behind it. He's seeing things that I'm not seeing, but I don't see like a way that I can look at quads and that this would work out. So to me, it's just a random color story, so I don't give it points for that. The price point was good, but then again, I bought it for 50% off. So the regular price I think is like $51 for this palette. And it's not that it's not worth it, because the quality of it is good, and the fact that he does give mattes and shimmers, so I will give him a point for having mattes and shimmers, whereas Maggie only gave us, you know, mattes. But this palette only gets a 1 for me because I don't like the color store. Well, sorry, it gets a 2 because the formula is good, and the fact that it has mattes and shimmers is good, and the price point is decent for the amount of shadows that you get with the quality of the formula. So he gets 2 points and Maggie gets 3. So far Maggie's ahead. We'll see how far Maggie keeps going with that. But with both of those palettes, those are my opinions. Now let's get into the second palette. So we have the Surge palette from Maggie and Blend Buddy Cosmetics versus the Feet on the Ground palette. Now this is the palette I wanted to get from him when I first saw the color story. So I'll start off with the color story of this one so we can like kind of have a positive for him as opposed to be just saying all negative. I love the color story of this. Now with this one, I feel like it's Maggie's palette. I can go down each row and make an eye look and be comfortable with the way that eye look is going to look based upon the way that this palette is set up. So I really like this one. To me, this is more grungier, fun version. I still don't like the busy background, but I like the mattes and shimmers. I like the color story. I like the formula. So with this palette and the price point, so with this palette, he will get 2 more points. So now he's even with Maggie for now. But let's check out the Surge palette, because this one I really like. This one I reach for the most when it comes to his palettes, at least the first 2 of his palettes that came out. So he has 3 and Maggie has 3. Now let's look at Maggie's Surge palette. It is absolutely stunning. Look at it. It's so gorgeous. And again, she did where you can just go down each row and do an eye look. I mean, some people don't necessarily like to do that. Like I dip all around this palette, and sometimes I dip in the blends palette along with this one, since this one is the one that she first put shimmers in it. Now, people weren't really liking the shimmer formula here that much. I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was anything exceptional. But what I will say is she improved the shimmer formula in the Dollhouse palette that we're going to talk about last, because she got critiques about the shimmers. And what I do appreciate about Maggie is when she got the critiques, she made the changes needed. So I'm going to give her a point for that. Because a lot of brands, you say something and they don't change it, like ColourPop. How many times have we told them not to put pressed glitters in palettes? But what do they keep doing? Putting pressed glitters in palettes. So I'm gonna need them to calm down and stop. But unlike, you know, Maggie's not like them. If you tell her something, she will fix it. So I can definitely appreciate that. And I really like this palette. I especially love the neons at the bottom and the fact that they actually show up on my skin tone. Now on camera they don't look neon, but if you've seen them in person, these are bright neons and I really like them. She has some cute little pastels at the top. However, I will say the pastels in here to me look somewhat similar to the one in the blends palette. Let me show you so you can see what I'm talking about. At least the blue and purple ones do. In my personal opinion, I feel like they're a little bit, might be just a tad bit lighter and ashier, but in this one, you see what I'm saying? Like the purple to me looks the same, and one of the blues looks somewhat similar. So it's like, I don't feel like I should necessarily dock points for it though, because it might just make it a good companion to work with. Because if you wanted a little deeper of an ashier blue, you could reach into this one if you already own it, and then you could use the shimmers from this one to make a gorgeous look. So I'm not going to necessarily dock points for that, but I did want to point it out for the people who don't have the palette, so they'll know that there's pastels in this one as well as the first one, and for you to see the difference in the tones. Because I'm not actually going to sit here and swatch it, because girl, it's too long. So let's show them side by side, because I don't think I did that. So here is the Surge palette alongside this one. As you can see, they're both kind of more on the grungier side, which is why I showed this one second. Aside from the fact I think Hidden Clouds and Feet on the Ground and this came out at the same time, and this was Maggie's second palette, so I just thought it makes sense to put both of them based on the way he named them as well. So that's what both of them look like. As you can see, they're both grungy, but hers has a little bit of fun brightness to it and pops with it. So again, I give Maggie points for the color story. I really like it. For the formula, it's really good. I'm giving formula for the mattes, not for the shimmers, because she improved on those when she got critiques. But I guess we can give her a point for following critiques. I don't know that anybody has critiques made by Mitchell's brand, so I can't really say if he's fixed any critiques based upon what people said. So far Maggie has 6 and he has 5. Because remember I talked about not liking color story. Sorry, he has 4 because I didn't like the color story in the first one. Wait, no, he has 5 because I said the price point was fine. So he has 5 and Maggie has 6. So Maggie's still ahead by 1. So let's get into the last 2 palettes, which are the last 2 palettes they both came out with. And I feel like he tried to make this his more neutral palette with a little bit of pops of color for fun. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, this is the Do You Want Some Milk palette for Made by Mitchell, alongside the Dollhouse palette with Maggie came out with this year of, I want to say maybe like a month or 2 months ago, because my video is still up for it. I'll try to link videos to both of these, all these palettes in the description bar or in the eye above so you can see them. But here's what they look like side by side. So this is her version of a neutral palette. To me, this is his version of a neutral palette with like fun pops of color to add to it. So they both did neutral palettes with a twist. It's just his neutral palette has like a few bright colors in it, whereas her neutral palette is not a traditional neutral palette. So we'll talk about each one for a different reason. I'll start off with Maggie again this time, since we just start off with Made by Mitchell to bump up his points a little bit. So I like Maggie's. When I first heard she was coming out with a palette like this, I was just like, oh god, here we come with these boring neutrals, because I thought it was gonna be like everybody else with all the different tones of browns, you know, like Natasha did with the Bieber palette, and then the bronze palette, and the glam palette. I mean, I like the glam palette out of the three she came out with, based upon like, you know, the fact that it's cool tone, but I don't like her trying to tell me where to put the shades, so that's why I didn't buy it. But back to Maggie. I really like hers, because again, she always sets it up to where if you're a beginner and you want to be able to use her palettes, that you can, because you can go down each row and make a look, or you can be like me and just grab from wherever you feel like and put an eye look together like that. Both ways work just fine. The shimmer formula in this is better than the first one. I feel like the first ones were like a little bit stiffer and a little bit harder to pick up on the brush, whereas this ones I feel like are easier to pick up on the brush. So shout out to Maggie for that. The formula is the same across the board in all palettes, so she gets a point for that. She gets a point for improving on the shimmers like people ask. And the price point of this is just fine considering, because I think it only went up like $3 or $4 when she added the shimmers, and then when she changed the shimmers, I think it only went up by maybe $1 or $2, or they might be the exact same. Don't quote me, but I give this palette another 3 points, so that means Maggie has 9 points, and so far Made by Mitchell only has 5. So with this palette, let me start off with, I was not, again, the color story for me, this is hard to look at and think of an eye look, so I'm not into the color stories. I don't know what it is about his color stories. I always feel like they're weird and I can't get a good grasp on what I should do with it, so I'm not gonna give a point for that. The price point, as usual, I got this 50% off. I always get a 50% off, so I guess that's a good deal. But for regular price, I wouldn't pay that for this. So he's only going to get 1 point, which will make him go up to 6. So the final determination to add more points will be how it blends out on my eye when I do the eye looks, how the shimmers perform, and how I like the eye look overall. So far Maggie has 9, Made by Mitchell only has 6. So we will go into the eye look portion of this now, and we will be using the last two I just showed you. So we're gonna use Dollhouse on this side, and then we're gonna use Do You Want Some Milk on this side, and that will help us determine which palette reigns supreme, which brand reigns supreme. So I will be right back. I gotta take the Night Flower palette off from Mented Cosmetics, and then we can get into what we're gonna do. Okay, yeah, so I was just sitting here editing the video and realized I said Maggie had 9 and that Mitchell had 6. So disregard the part you're about to see about where I said that I think she had 6 and he had 3. I was off, but I filmed the first part of this on the 19th, and I literally just filmed the next part of this on the 26th of March, so that's why I was off. My bad. Moving on. Okay, y'all, so it looks like we're going to be getting berry moments with each one of these palettes, because the thing they have in common is neutrals and berries. So I'm going to probably take like these shades right here and some of these neutral shades up here from the Do You Want Some Milk palette. And then from Dollhouse, of course, you know, I would just take some of the berry tones over here. So let's get started. I put the Natasha Denona eye base on, and I'm going to start off with the Dollhouse palette. So, let me see. I'm gonna shake the shade called Plume. This is this really dark shade. Start on my outer V, and just kind of try to get my V shape going now. I'm trying out a new foundation right now, so let me know what you think of my base and concealer, because I tried a new foundation and concealer today, because you know this is the season of new foundations launching in spring. Everyone wants to launch every foundation in the world. So let me know what you think of every foundation in the world, because I've been doing quite a few complexion reviews. You all seem to be liking them, which I'm happy about, because I want to make sure you actually watch this as opposed to a few people watching just because they're a fan and not necessarily excited about the content. So which is why I started this new thing with eyeshadow, so that way we can still play with older or newer eyeshadow palettes and you. See how it goes. So for this episode, I decided I would use the newest ones. The next one, I'm thinking about just using my favorites from the brand, and hopefully they have similar color stories. But as you can see, the formula on this is quite pigmented and it's very easy to blend down. And she even has her own line of brushes, like Made by Mitchell does, so I'm using her brushes as well. So now I'm going to take, okay, this is the one I use for the outer V. So I'll take the shade. I guess I'll take a light brown shade. Well, there's not really other light brown shades here. I guess I'll take, let me see. I'm gonna take the shade Vintage and start dusting over top of Plume, the shade we just put down, to give it more of an airbrush effect. That's kind of smoothing out that roughness of the way I blended it on the outer V. I might have to take the shade in the crease too, because since there's not a lot of plum shades in the other one, I'm gonna have a darker, plummy-ish like outer V, and then the crease shade's gonna be more neutral. So I know, right? Me with a neutral color, that's gonna be weird. Take a clean brush here and do that for now, and then I'm gonna go to the other side and put a similar color on the outer V, and then we'll figure out what I'm gonna do as far as like the crease goes with that side, and then we'll continue. So next, do you want some milk? Is what we're gonna start off with. His brush is over there, so I don't get confused. So I'm just gonna take this brush and go into the shade Angus, like Angus beef, and do the same thing to the outer beef. Flick it out a little bit. Now automatically you see his isn't as pigmented as hers. His formula seems to be a lot drier and not nearly as easily blendable as the Blend Bunny Cosmetics Dollhouse palette. So remember I said we were going to rank the performance of the palette as well. Right now I got the groove going and it's okay, but it's just not as pigmented as hers. But it is becoming a little easier to blend. It's just a really dry formula. Whereas I feel like hers is a little bit more creamy and way more pigmented. These just seem like really thin shadows. See if we can build it up on the outer V just a little bit more, because I'm like, not like the fact that I feel like it looks really sheer compared to this side. Because I look at the pigment on this versus the pigment on this. I mean, the color of this one I do like better than that one, because it does give a little bit more plum, whereas I feel like there's a little deep darker plum. That's a time and place for both, but I'm liking the color of this one better. I just wish it had more pigmentation and like it didn't take so much to build up in order to get the same impact that we're getting on this side. So this one looks a little bit more airbrushed than this one. So next we're going to go into, there's a brush I want to use for that. So I'm going to take the shade Biscuits up here at the top, this one, and dust it over that shade as well. And then this is probably the one we put in the crease on both sides. But let's see. Just giving more airbrush effect. To me this is giving off a little like kind of be beigey, taupe-ish vibes, if you will. This shade is blending out nicely as well. So this one looks a little more airbrush to me. This one looks a little rushed, but it might be the way I just put it on. Because I prefer to use a different type of brush when I'm doing the outer V. That's the only thing I will say about hers too. Like some brushes I'm not necessarily excited about the way I have to go about using them, because I'm used to using a certain brush a certain way. So could just be that. But it doesn't look bad. It's just I wish it was had a little bit more fruit plum like this one does. So there's that. Okay, now we're gonna go into the shade I told you, Vintage. So that's the one we're gonna use in the crease, like I thought we were gonna have to, because it's the one that's closest to the other shade we just put on, and I'm trying to make that at least look somewhat close. Other thing is, I mean, have to wear neutral eyes for that. This is so weird. But you never do, we have to. So to me, it's just giving like a taupey-ish, kind of grayish, beige-ish vibe to it. And then I gotta figure out what shimmer to put on the lid, because I don't think they have any shimmers that are similar to each other. But they both have a reddish, pinkish type shimmer to it, so I guess I use that. And then they both have like a lightish, milky shade shimmer for the inner corner, so we'll just do it that way. So that works. I mean, I feel like it's gonna be a weird combination of colors when I go to the gas station and TJ Maxx it up, but you know, like Jackie said in one of her videos, they gotta take what they get. So again, we're gonna take this and blending out all nicely. That's what we're looking like on the dollhouse side. Let's go back to Made by Mitchell's side. I'm going to take that same color, Biscuits, again. And I feel like Biscuits is lighter than this shade, but I feel like all the colors in Made by Mitchell's palette are lighter than the ones in the Blend Bunny one. It's like you're getting the lighter version of the eye versus the deeper version of the eye, and we're just talking about the formula of it. So this one I do find is easier to blend than the darker ones, but sometimes darker ones are harder to make, which is why they're harder to blend. I felt like it was harder to get this color to build up to where it is now though, versus the Blend Bunny one automatically came with the pigmentation. So I will say that about them. Oh, I never had a brush to airbrush the other side of Made by Mitchell's, but he doesn't have a brush for that, so I'm gonna just take this Glamlite Candy Cane brush from the holiday set I got for 50% off a while ago and dust over it. So both brush sets don't necessarily have everything I want in them, and that's okay. I don't have to have everything in all of them. So I'm gonna swatch these colors and see if they're similar enough to me to where we can both leave on lid. I feel like this one is way more impactful in the Made by Mitchell one, and it's not gonna be the same color as the, yeah, no. I mean, it's somewhat the same, but at the same time not. So these are the two colors I was thinking about using, but as you can see, this one has more of a pink goldish reflex in the Made by Mitchell one, and the one from the Dollhouse palette does not. It's way more reflective in Mitchell's palette too. As you can see, this is what the Mitchell one looks like versus the what do you call it, Dollhouse one. But I think I'm gonna just go ahead and stick with those colors, because y'all know me, I gotta have some type of color, and since I don't get it from the crease and I only get a little bit in the outer V, we're gonna have to settle somewhere, girl. We're gonna have to, I'm sorry. So I'm going to start off with the Dollhouse one, and that shade I showed you all is called Little Sister. We're gonna put that all over the lid. So that's what I'm gonna grab for my Olden's eye brush, because as you all know, Blend Bunny just had brushes to blend out all the colors, not necessarily if you put anything on the lid with. So we're gonna take this Olden's eye brush and start putting this shade on lid. And this seems to be more of a softish satiny type sparkle. It's not gonna be as impactful as that Made by Mitchell one y'all just saw. We're seeing that now. I don't necessarily have an issue with that, because I mean, this is supposed to be her softer palette as opposed to like the Surge palette and the Blends palette. Yeah, it's not supposed to be like that. But I feel like this is where Made by Mitchell's palette is going to shine. So what I'm going to do is rank each color that I use based upon how easy it was to blend, how the color looks on the eye, and how it brought both the eye looks together overall. And then that'll help us get our final determination. Because so far, if I remember correctly, Made by Mitchell had 3, and then Blend Bunny had 5. And I will give my thoughts at the end after we get both these colors on. So this is what our finished eye looks like from Blend Bunny. I mean, it's not truly finished. We haven't put it in the inner corner yet, but I mean, like, just as far as shades on the lid, everything else is what we're working with, girl. Take my brush and just blend a little bit more there. So this to me is a true sultry smoky eye, something I would normally do and use. So let's get into Mitchell's now. I'm gonna take the shade. His shade was called Licky Licky. That one over the lid. And you see his is automatically more glittery, more shimmery, and more impactful. Plus it has like the shift in colors, which I think looks really cool. This is one of my favorite colors in this palette of all the colors, just because I feel like it's so impactful and fun. And as y'all saw, a lot of the colors seem to be a little muted down, like this outer V shade, so I'm liking that. I'm going to go back into the shade Angus to help the shimmer. blend in with the rest of the mattes and everything going on in the eye. Plus again, I feel like with the shimmer being that impactful, it's not, it's dulling down the rest of the colors as well. Like the outer V shade, I feel like was being dulled down because the lid shade was so sparkly. If that made any sense, but this is our Made by Mitchell finish eye, and this is our Bunny finish eye. Let's go ahead and put the shimmers in the inner corner. So I'm gonna just put Milky in the inner corner first, since I've already have this palette on my lap, and I will dust it off and we'll do the other shade. So Milky is the lightest color in this palette, so I'm just putting the lightest, iciest colors from each palette in the inner corner. So now Made by Mitchell is officially done, other than me putting my eyeliner on and whatnot. And now we're gonna transition into the Bunny Cosmetics palette, and we use the shade Lace in this one. So you see both of them have impactful in the corner colors, and I actually feel like the colors look really similar. That's the only color, but you can see the Blend Bunny one is quite more impactful than that one. So now in fact, let me swatch both of those as well. So we'll swatch the shade Lace. And then we're gonna go to shade Milky. Oh, see, his has a shift in it that I feel like you're not seeing on the eye. Or maybe you do when I turn my head like that. Whereas hers just has more of a glittery impact. So this is the Made by Mitchell shade right here, Milky, and then this is the shade Lace. So these are both of the eyes done. We back you on up, and then we will finally get a tally ranking overall and see who won this battle. Okay, so they both have brush sets. I like both the brush sets, so I'll give each one of them a point for that. So that means Made by Mitchell has 4 now, and Blend Bunny has 6. Now, I felt like with the 3 colors I used with Made by Mitchell, the only one that was truly impactful were the shimmers. So the mattes, sorry, the 4 colors I used. So the mattes weren't that impactful. I had to build up this matte, so I would take off the point for that one, which would make him go back down to 3. But I will add a point for the shimmer in the inner corner and the shimmer on the lid, which will give him 5. So he has 5. With the Blend Bunny one, I wish the shimmer on the lid was more impactful. So she goes down to a 5 now, but she's gonna go up obviously because of this inner corner shade and the fact that her outer V shade was easier to blend. Both the crease shades were fine to blend, so that'll make him have 6, but she'll still have 8, which means Blend Bunny wins based upon the performance of the palettes in addition to all the other things we ranked earlier on. So Blend Bunny wins. I do like Made by Mitchell still, but again, with all his color stories that are difficult to use, and Blend Bunny's being easier, along with hers being easier to blend, and her brush set working best with all of her mattes and whatnot, I would easily pick Blend Bunny. So Blend Bunny wins this battle of our challenge. The next brand, you all can tell me what you want to see. I do have like 2 or 3 already picked out for us to do, so let me know down below what you think of this video, and if you want to see some more of this video, because I plan on filming one more today, and then you all can gauge how you feel about this, and we can see if you want to keep going or not. But I hope you all enjoyed this video. Remember, you all are diamonds. I had fun playing with these palettes and, you know, reminiscing. Not that I haven't used the Dollhouse one recently, but I hadn't used the Made by Mitchell one in a while, so I hope you all enjoyed this video. Remember, you all are diamonds. I'll catch you guys in the next one. You can leave recommendations down below of what brands you want to go against what. I try to make sure it's fair to each brand, though. Like, they each have the same amount of palettes. They each do similar things and stuff like that. Like, the next one's about to be an influencer battle between Kirsten Dominique and Manny. But I'll see you guys in the next one. Be blessed, girl. Bye.